Visa processing breakdown leaves businesses without staff. Roberta Metsola insists the EU should stop buying essentials from its enemies. And Comino will have 0 police officers during nighttime and early morning this summer. All this and more on Lovin Daily. Good evening and welcome to Lovin Daily. I'm Tim Diacono, and today I'll be interviewing Ruth Debono, President of the Alliance of the ME, CFS and Fibromyalgia Alliance, about a great initiative her movement is pushing forward that involves comics to raise awareness about these conditions. But before that, let's start by discussing a huge problem that the Maltese private sector is facing at the moment. A human resource crisis as a result of the persistent gridlock in the visa processing system. So this problem has been going on for a while within the industry. There's been talk about it, has been growing, particularly since the end of restrictions linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the Malta Chamber of SMEs came out extremely strongly today, describing this gridlock as being the cause of what they called an unprecedented human resource crisis facing several businesses on the island. To quote them, they said the pressures businesses are facing are unprecedented. Not only that, but they're on par with the problems are on par with inflationary pressures. So there's been a lot of talk about the huge problems inflation has caused on businesses worldwide. This is as serious as that for Maltese businesses, and they estimate the cost to businesses to run in the several millions of euro. They flagged the source of the problem, the source of the rot, as being the High Commission in India, the Maltese High Commission office in India, which doesn't only deal with visa applications for Indian nationals, but also from surrounding countries, including Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and the Maldives. But it's not only that. We were informed that the problems across the board, including in places like the United Arab Emirates, which deals with visa applications from countries like Pakistan. And the problem over here is that we're talking about workers who have been accepted. These aren't people who are just coming to Malta looking for a job. These are people who have been accepted by their employer. They've passed the interview stage, they've signed the contract. They've also got their work permit from Identity Malta, so the Maltese government has approved them as workers, and yet the visa application process is getting stuck. Not only sometimes it gets delayed for months, and sometimes they just get refused for extremely spurious reasons, such as that they don't have a justification or valid enough justification for coming here, even though they literally presented their work contract, which I can't really understand what's more justifiable than having a job waiting for you. This is one of the hugest problems facing the Maltese economy at the moment, this issue of human resources. There aren't enough Maltese workers. It's a well-known fact that unemployment is extremely low here. EU workers aren't coming here for certain jobs for a multitude of reasons, and this reliance on third country nationals seems to have hit a gridlock. Meanwhile, at the World Economic Forum in Dubai, one of the world's largest economic fora, European Parliament President Roberta Metsola urged EU member states to stand firm in its strong stance against Russia in the wake of economic realities that are really starting to bite as a result of the war, including issues like food prices, inflation in food shortages as a result of the latest Russian blockade of a key Ukrainian port, energy crisis as well, and she's saying that this next stage in ramping up sanctions against Russia, which would involve the EU, blocking or banning the importation of Russian fuels, would be hard because of the political realities on the ground, including an energy crisis, the ripple effect on food, and even potential migration influxes. However, her argument is that at the end of the day, we shouldn't put a price on freedom and democracy, which is all well and good, and there is an argument to be made in favor of that, but it's also quite jarring to hear this coming out of the mouth of someone who's not personally impacted by the crisis. This is from the economic crisis. This is the sad reality. At the end of the day, a lot of people are feeling this pinch in their pockets and hearing that inflation is going to hit record levels. At the end of the day, for someone earning, it's a real problem for people at the lower end of the salary level, and it's when people are risking being thrown into poverty. It's very difficult to tell them or to sell them the idea that you're fighting the good fight because Ukraine is at risk of losing its democracy. It's a very difficult situation over there, and a difficult pill to swallow. Meanwhile, PN MPs Alex Borg and Joe Giglio have warned that Comino is going to be facing human and other human resource problems, specifically in terms of police officers. They said that not a single police officer is going to be stationed on Comino between the hours of 8:30 p.m. and 9 a.m. this summer, whereas usually there is at least one officer stationed in the station in case things go wrong. Now this summer apparently there won't be. Again, we've asked the police to confirm this. It does seem to be an issue of human resources. Comino was not the only district that needs police officers. You see mayors of every town constantly calling for more police presence on the streets. Doesn't seem as though anyone is satisfied, saying we have enough officers or we have excess officers. But someone needs to manage these resources and where they go and which stations they're manned at. However, not having a single police officer in the whole island seems like a potential recipe for disaster. Hopefully nothing will go wrong, but if it does, there'll be a lot of discussions about it. And one of the biggest developers in Dubai, a group called Damac Properties, is constructing an entire Malta-inspired housing project in the UAE. So this includes a garden which is identical to the famous Upper Baraka Gardens in Valletta, a pool inspired by the Blue Lagoon, and even a lutsu chilling inside the pool. The actual architecture itself does not represent traditional Maltese buildings made of the Maltese limestone, but the surroundings are. And in their words, this is their pitch to potential purchasers, a cluster of 4-bedroom townhouses, so not small, which is reminiscent of the beautiful southern Mediterranean country, that's us, and is where future residents will experience luxury and comfort right in the heart of Dubai. So if you're thinking of moving somewhere luxurious out of Malta, but into a place which still has hints of Malta, well, that's one option for you. And finally, 23-year-old Maltese entrepreneur Lisa Margrioverint has managed to attract the attention and the investment of all 5 sharks on the latest episode of Shark Tank Malta, which aired last Sunday. Interestingly, she came up with a creative idea that popped into her mind during the infamous lockdown period, which is a creative venture called Hooked, which involves the creation of handbags, plant hangers, dream catchers, and other similar products through a knotting technique called macrame. She asked the sharks for €10,000 in investment, originally for 10% of her business. However, they liked the product so much they all jumped on board and gave her 25,000, however, for an even bigger stake, for half her business. So I really recommend you do watch the pitch, because it's great to see the confidence in her pitch. It was even a fun pitch without being cocky as well. And it's great to see young Maltese businesses taking this plunge, taking the risk, and doing so in a very impressive manner. That's it from us for now, but I'm soon going to be interviewing Ruth Debono, president of the CFS Fibromyalgia Alliance, about about a new series of comics that her group has launched. So stay tuned.
Kienu jgħidula xawwata.
Passjoni tal-furnar tkun hemm. Il-forn jistrieħ fuq il-ftira. Issa tridu biċċa ftira.
Welcome back to Lovin Daily. With me now is Ruth Debono, President of the ME, CFS and Fibromyalgia Alliance. Thank you for being with me here today, Ruth.
Thank you for your invite. It's a lovely pleasure.
Ruth, your group has recently teamed up with the former president, Maria-Louise Collier-Operca, to launch this initiative whereby you released a set of comics really about people who suffer from ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, and fibromyalgia. So, can you explain, first of all, what was the point behind releasing these comics?
Okay, so I received a phone call from Her Excellency one day, and she was very excited. She told me, we're going to work on a project together. She has our awareness at heart, our advocacy at heart, and she heard of a University of Dundee from a Professor Tim Diacono, who is a friend of Professor Divya Jindal Snape, who is the Dean of this faculty in University of Dundee, who had just released back in 2017, and he just discovered this magazine, Fibromyalgia and Us. So she gave her a call, she explained to her that we are very interested, that there's an NGO fighting for these illnesses, and we decided there and then that we should do something else. So we decided to translate the English comic of Fibromyalgia and Us into Maltese, but also we offered that our members, some of our members, write stories for myalgic encephalomyelitis comic, and we also translated that. So it was a very interesting project.
And one of the comics is about a clinical worker who works, it's very well done, I have to say.
Yes.
Even the artwork is great. But the story of one of them is about a clinical worker who works 20-hour weeks, which is actually half the regular working week, and feels physically and emotionally burned out after the whole experience, and then just lying in bed wondering whether she could help her husband with the chores or risk, or if she does that she will risk not being able to her own health and not being able to go to work the next day, and ends with her resigning from her job as well. Is this a normal life for people with these conditions?
Yes, unfortunately so. There's a difference between the two illnesses. Therefore, fibromyalgia's main symptoms is chronic widespread pain, and for myalgic encephalomyelitis, which we call ME in short, is post-exertional malaise. Therefore, for the nurse in question, she has fibromyalgia, but then eventually she was diagnosed with ME. And yes, the story for ME is that they either cannot work, they are either bedbound most of the time or housebound all of the time. So that is for ME patients. With fibromyalgia patients, depending on the severity of both illnesses, some people manage to keep working, but the risks are always there. Shall I manage my day-to-day? It all depends on the symptoms of the day. The severity fluctuates a lot, even on the same person. For example, I manage to work, but not always on the same level every day. So yes, you have the risks of losing your job. You have the risks of not being understood by your colleagues and by your family members. It's a big risk. Everything that you do has to be measured.
And these symptoms are very similar to the strange phenomenon of long COVID that's being discussed at the moment, the after effects that some people experience after getting sick with the virus. Do you see any connection between these two?
So, science is showing that people who have got sick with COVID and now have 20% of the persons who got sick with COVID are getting long COVID or post-COVID symptoms. Therefore, the illness remains there somewhat in the background, and you know that you haven't recuperated your existing health prior to the illness. That is exactly the symptoms of fibromyalgia and ME. Usually, science is showing that it's more ME, kind of, because ME is post-viral. Usually, ME is post-viral illness. Therefore, our question has always been, now that science, there are many people who have got sick with COVID, science is investing more in research, thanks to COVID, let's say, because it's hitting more people. There are already a lot of people, 0.2 to 0.4% of persons living with this myalgic encephalomyelitis, which is mostly post-viral, but now the numbers are getting bigger and bigger due to COVID.
So it's something that the world must get used to, in the sense that there's a significant number of people who do feel these symptoms, and who feel them for an extended period of time, if not forever, and who need to be integrated as well. You can't tell all these people you can't work.
We have been advocating for work from home since the inception of the NGO, that's 9 years. And we had found quite some closed doors for work from home for persons who are sick. But now, as soon as COVID started, people and companies were making everything possible for the workers to continue to work from home, to obviously for the economy's purposes. But that showed how our argument was solid enough, and we knew that a person can still work from home while being sick. And obviously, this would take us to, why does it have to take so long for a patient to find their voice? We've been advocating with the government, and unfortunately our voices weren't heard. But then with COVID, all of a sudden, the economists and the business people were being hit, largely hit, of course, and all of a sudden we find a solution.
So it's now been around a year since not even longer, since Malta laws had these kinds of restrictions related to the pandemic. And there's been quite a lot of discussion worldwide about the future of remote working and work from home. Do you see this as something that's here to stay, especially bearing in mind people who suffer from conditions like ME? Or do you feel that there's a drive from many governments and many businesses to get people back into the office, get the economy completely moving again as much as possible, and these are the people who want to, or in some cases need to work from home, might just have to lump it?
Yes, unfortunately we're going to have to lump it. I work business to business, my own job is like that, so I know that most companies have moved back into the office. Only a very few companies are still working in hybrid, therefore 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, for example, and the very, very few are still working from home because the company gave them the option to decide whether they want to go back into the office or stay at home. We ask a simple question: if the job that we are asked to do is being done, why not making it from home instead of at the office?
Why do you think there's a lack of public recognition to these conditions, and have you noticed awareness increase in any way in recent years?
Definitely, since the setup of the NGO, definitely there has been more awareness and a lot of advocacy was done by us. There are still, unfortunately, some people who tell me, I've never heard of fibromyalgia or ME, because maybe they don't watch Maltese television, for example, or they don't have any family member who is inflicted by these illnesses. However, the awareness has grown. Unfortunately, we sometimes think that it's grown to the extent that people hear us on television doing an interview and they decide there and then that they have fibromyalgia. So we have to be very, very careful, because symptoms of fibromyalgia and ME are even common in other illnesses, including depression, including gluten intolerance, including cancer, including lupus, multiple sclerosis. So please always go checked by the doctor. It's
So a
very
doctor
important.
the doctors will tell you you have ME.
The doctor should refer you depending on the symptoms that you place before him, and he should refer you for fibromyalgia for a rheumatologist and for ME to a neurologist.
Is it widespread? Is there widespread recognition among doctors though as to?
There should be. We hope there should be. There isn't enough. We keep fighting for specialists. We know that in Malta, as yet, we do not have specialized doctors, specifically like in America, for example, who are specialized only on fibromyalgia or specialized only on ME. However, we do have our rheumatologists who are very, very good at their job. They know very well, and they keep informed as much as possible. But having this one-size-fits-all is something that we don't like. So unfortunately, many times we ended up getting the same medication, the same as everybody else.
So your group has long been calling on the authorities to recognize these conditions as disabilities.
Yes.
How has the progress been? Has there been any progress in recent years?
There has been progress. We've been given more medication for free recently during the last budget. However, the argument of disability is being stalled a bit due to both fibromyalgia and myalgic encephalomyelitis not having a direct diagnosis. So the diagnosis for both illnesses comes by exclusion, and the government needs to make sure that no abusers benefit from being diagnosed wrongly with fibromyalgia and ME, and therefore seems to be stalling the government from taking the decision. They do know that we are disabled, they do acknowledge the fact, but up to now no decision has been taken.
But so because some people might fall through the cracks, you're going to deny everyone the chance then?
That's the argument.
Okay. So finally, Ruth, these comics, how can people access them? How can people read them?
So, thanks to your wonderful article of last weekend, kudos to you. You did a wonderful job for that. You can find the links online on Loving Malta. You can find the links online on our Facebook pages, and CFS and Fibromyalgia Alliance. You can find them on the Malta Trust Foundation and other articles that we have had during the past month of May, which was highlighted on the 12th of May with our Awareness Day. And we also, I must say, had the Light Up the Night event on the same day, which we had very good a nice light up by most local councils who have helped us as well. So if they follow our awareness articles, they would be able to find the links, but definitely through your website you would definitely find them. They are both in Maltese and in English for fibromyalgia and us, and for living with myalgic encephalomyelitis, the ME comic.
So yeah, visit lovinmalta.com.
Yes.
Ruth Debono, thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Thank you very much for following us on another episode of Lovin Daily, and have an evening full of loving.